When you think of Spain, maybe you picture sunlit plazas, flamenco dancers, or deep brown eyes passed down through generations. But here's the twist. Hazel eyes are surprisingly common across Spain. How did that happen in a land so often linked with darker features? In this video, we're going to unlock the genetic mystery of hazel eyes in Spain. From ancient hunter-gatherers to Roman settlers, Celtic warriors, Moorish caliphs, and medieval nobles, Spain has seen it all. And hazel eyes, they're the living proof. We'll explore how centuries of migration, conquest, and cultural fusion gave rise to this rare and beautiful eye color, one that tells a deeper story about Spain's identity. Let me know in the comments if you or someone in your family has hazel eyes and Spanish roots. I'd love to hear how your history lives in your eyes. Hazel eyes are like nature's blend mode. They usually have a brown or amber core with rings or flecks of green, gold, or gray, shifting in color depending on lighting and environment. Unlike blue or brown eyes, which are more uniform, hazel eyes look different from moment to moment, and that's part of what makes them so fascinating. Scientifically, hazel eyes result from moderate melanin levels in the iris and a mix of genetic factors that affect how light scatters through eye tissue. The two biggest genes involved are OCA2 and HER2, which regulate how much pigment is produced and how it's distributed. Too much melanin results in brown eyes, too little creates blue, and just the right balance, combined with certain structural features in the eye, produces hazel. Hazel eyes are relatively rare, found in about 5 to 8% of the global population. But they're more common in regions where genetic mixing has occurred over thousands of years, especially between northern and southern ancestries. That's where Spain comes in. I'm on a road to get 1,000 subscribers. Please subscribe. With its unique position at the crossroads of Europe, Africa, and the Mediterranean, Spain has long been a hotspot for gene flow, and hazel eyes are one of the beautiful results of that blend. Long before Spain was Spain, the Iberian Peninsula was home to ancient people whose DNA still lives in modern Spaniards and in some of their eyes. Around 10,000 years ago, Mesolithic hunter-gatherers roamed the rivers and forests of Iberia. Genetic studies show they likely had dark skin, dark hair, and blue eyes, a striking combination, and one that planted the early seeds of eye color diversity. Then came the Neolithic Revolution, around 7,000 years ago, when farmers from the Near East and Anatolia began migrating into Iberia. They brought agriculture, new tools, and a fresh set of genes, many of which leaned toward brown eyes and lighter skin. These farmers mixed with the local hunter-gatherers, and the result was a broad range of pigmentation. The first genetic ingredients for hazel eyes were now in the population. The process didn't stop there. During the Copper and Bronze Ages, waves of migration from Central Europe and the Western Steppe introduced even more genetic diversity. These newcomers brought lighter pigmentation alleles, adding blue and green eye genes to the mix. Iberia was never isolated. It was always a place where people came and stayed, or passed through and left behind their DNA. Over time, this created a complex spectrum of skin, hair, and eye colors, especially in regions with early and consistent blending. Hazel eyes, requiring a balance of light and dark pigmentation, found a stable home in this mosaic. By the time history began recording names and kingdoms, the genes for hazel eyes were already well established in Iberian DNA. As history marches forward, so does the genetic story of hazel eyes in Spain. Around 3,000 years ago, Celtic tribes began settling in northern and western parts of Iberia, especially in regions like Galicia, Asturias, and parts of Castile and Leon. These Celtic peoples brought lighter pigmentation traits, including genes for green and blue eyes. When they mixed with existing populations, they helped expand the range of intermediate eye colors, creating more opportunities for hazel eyes to appear. At the same time, Phoenician traders from the eastern Mediterranean were building coastal settlements like Gadir, modern Cadiz. Their DNA, originating from what is now Lebanon and Syria, added Middle Eastern and North African genes to the mix, genes often associated with brown eyes and olive skin. But when combined with the lighter Celtic or native Iberian genomes, these darker genes helped create the genetic variation needed for hazel eyes to flourish. Then came the Romans, who left a deep and lasting impact. Roman settlers, soldiers, and colonists came from all over the empire, from Italy to the Balkans, from Gaul to North Africa. This wave brought an even richer mix of European, Mediterranean, and African ancestry into Spain. Roman Spain, or Hispania, became one of the most important provinces in the empire and one of the most genetically diverse. With every new marriage, alliance, or village, eye-color genes were exchanged and passed on. By the end of Roman rule, Spain had become a melting pot of pigmentation, laying the groundwork for hazel eyes to thrive. After the fall of Rome, Spain didn't slow down. It became the stage for one of the most intense periods of migration, conquest, and cultural exchange in European history. And that meant even more layers in the DNA behind hazel eyes. First came the Visigoths, a Germanic people who settled in Spain in the 5th century. They brought northern European genes, including those associated with lighter hair and eyes. The Visigoths established a kingdom that ruled much of the peninsula, blending with local Romanized populations and further enriching the genetic diversity of Spain. In this blend of northern and Mediterranean traits, hazel eyes found new ground. Then, in 711 AD, came the Muslim conquest of Iberia. For nearly 800 years, parts of Spain were under Moorish rule, particularly in Andalusia. The Moors brought DNA from North Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, and beyond, including genes linked to darker pigmentation. But again, through intermarriage and centuries of coexistence, these new genetic layers interacted with the existing population. That mixing often produced intermediate traits, including hazel eyes. During the Reconquista, Christian kingdoms gradually reclaimed the peninsula, and populations from northern Spain and the rest of Europe moved southward. The mixing of these waves, Visigothic, Arab, Berber, Celtic, Roman, created one of the most diverse genetic landscapes in Europe. Hazel eyes, which required just the right blend of light and dark pigmentation genes, weren't lost in this chaos. In fact, they became more likely, subtle signs of thousands of years of contact, migration, and cultural fusion. Hazel eyes are found across Spain, but their frequency varies by region, reflecting the country's complex history of migration, settlement, and gene flow. In the north and northwest, especially in Galicia, Asturias, and the Basque Country, hazel and green eyes are more common. These regions have higher levels of Celtic and Atlantic European ancestry, where lighter pigmentation genes are more frequent. In central Spain, including Castile and León and Madrid, hazel eyes often appear in populations with a mix of Roman, Visigothic, and Celtic roots. Here, hazel tends to lean toward brown with flashes of green or gold, classic Mediterranean hues formed through layered ancestry. I'm on a road to get 1,000 subscribers. Please subscribe. Hazel eyes in Spain are more than a beautiful detail. They're a living record of everything the peninsula has seen: ancient farmers, Celtic migrations, Roman roads, Moorish palaces, and medieval kingdoms. They reflect a history of openness, resistance, and blending. If you or someone in your family has hazel eyes and Spanish roots, let me know in the comments. Your eyes might be carrying the story of Iberia's past and its extraordinary future.